Hello! Welcome to the 100th Oscar Show. To celebrate a century of the Oscars, we have dedicated this year to different periods in American history and America's relationships with foreign countries throughout our country's history. We will be talking about many major topics in American history: freedom, wars, expansion, and civil rights.
Previous time has American security been as seriously threatened from without as it is today. I still have hope for a future that will take into account the four essential human freedoms, including the very important freedom from fear. We have made it through multiple tragedies from Pearl Harbor to 9/11, and we have seen that Americans indeed responded with determination more than fear, and that no one should awake the sleeping giant.
Creation of film, the movie industry, and the government officials have pushed for horror films as a way to express the underlying fears and anxieties of citizens made from their cultural norms to cause a reaction in American society.
Is the movie King Kong. The movie was first released in 1933. King Kong has numerous aspects symbolizing tensions in the United States. Primarily is the representation of racism. The movie depicts a view of black people in America at the time. When the movie was first released, American society was plagued by social and racial tensions. It is believed that when King Kong was captured and chained, it represented the U.S. slave trade. The historical context of this movie is important in understanding the message they are portraying. The film was released 35 years ago, before the Civil Rights Act. The way King Kong is depicted represents a fear in society that if they gave black men total freedom, there'd be destruction and chaos. Other aspects, the movie is a representation of colonialism. In the film, explorers invade Skull Island. They capture Kong, the leader of the natives on the island, and transport him into their world. When Kong rebels, it is symbolizing the movement of the natives attempting to overthrow colonist power. When Kong is killed in the end, it represents the rebellion being crushed. Last, the movie can be used as a cautionary tale to warn people about the effects of exploiting nature. Juan A. Roche-Carcel stated in his peer review that the images are necessary for the audience to relive the fear of the Depression, and so that this fear can be fed and increased with the presence of King Kong, an unknown being that is more horrific than any real affair. Therefore, the overwhelming strength of this last panic overcomes the previous one and even makes it disappear into oblivion. Nevertheless, the images are a cultural citation or reference rather than a reminiscence of the fear caused by the 1929 crash, already a very distant in the spectators. Created in the same year as King Kong was the movie Deluge. The movie is about a series of earthquakes and tsunamis destroying the United States. The movie displays an apocalyptic situation based off when it was created, represents the political and economic crises. The film was created during the Great Depression, so the mass destruction represented the obliteration of the economy at this time.
One, two, three, 4, 5, 7, 6, 8, 9,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
These are the stakes: to make a world in which all of God's children can live, or to go into the dark. We must either love each other or we must die.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
The next nominee for the award is the movie Godzilla. The movie Godzilla, a 1954 original horror movie, features a monster, but when examined further, the movie is making a bold political statement. Although Godzilla is not an American film, it expressed American tensions and inspired many recreations from American directors. The movie was released just 2 years after the end of the U.S. occupation in Japan and in the wake of the Lucky Dragon 5 incident. The movie was released just 2 years at the end of the U.S. occupation in Japan and in the wake of the Lucky 5 incident, when the United States set off a thermonuclear bomb in Bikini Atoll. Godzilla was represented as a symbol of the nuclear tension. Professor Hayashida A character in the movie stated, "Godzilla is a warning to every one of us. When mankind falls into conflict with nature, monsters are born." But then goes to say that Godzilla is a nuclear parabola. Numerous versions of the movie were and continue to be created. During the Cold War, Godzilla movies returned as a warning to remind people of nuclear age. Barry Glassinger, the president of the Lewis and Clark College and author of The Culture of Fear, Why Americans Fear the Wrong Things, related the Cold War back to the present day. He stated, "There are also differences in threats that can affect how people perceive fear. For example, living through the Cold War, it is in constant specter of nuclear attack. It required an ability not to live in perpetual state of fear in order to function. The last decade, by contrast, has seen a steady high level of fear, punctuated by jarring spikes, rather than the gradual change that was seen in the Cold War."
Little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of ticky-tacky, little boxes, all the same.
10 years following the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, our next nominee, the creature with the atom brain, was created in 1955. The Soviet Union had their first atomic bomb tested in 1949, which Americans feared. Nuclear radiation and communism were symbolized through zombies in Hollywood films. This movie features an ex-Nazi scientist named Wilhelm who uses radiation to revive corpses. Like our last nominee, the movie Teenage Zombies, created in 1960, showed a scientist from the East, referring to East Germany, intending to zombify everyone in the United States using experimental gas symbolizing the gas used in the Holocaust. This represents the desire for the perfect Aryan race during the rise of the Nazi Party.
The nominee for the Oscar is the movie The Purge: Election Year, that was created in 2016. The movie utilizes the idea of a home invasion with metaphorical reference to their message that the only way that you can truly be safe from an attack is to be on the offensive end and rebel against forces that originally led you into the home from the start. This home invasion can also be a metaphor for xenophobia and a fear of losing American culture. The movie emphasizes rich white men seizing power through authoritarianism and showed the class-based violence that exists in society today. In reference to the time the movie came out, there were fears of the recent presidential election.
In an interview, 2 television show hosts figured out the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, was a huge fan of their show. They successfully set up an interview with the dictator himself. However, as they prepare for the journey, the CIA steps in and gives them a mission to assassinate the dictator of North Korea. A foreign ministry spokesman stated that North Korea saw the release of this film as an act of war. This reflects the United States' tensions with North Korea. The spokesman stated, "If the U.S. administration allows and defends the showing of the film, a merciless countermeasure will be taken." He also stated that making and releasing a movie to plot or hurt our top-level leadership is the most blatant act of terrorism and war and will absolutely not be tolerated.
We would like to dedicate this time as we double-check the votes for the winner of the category. We can take a moment to remember fellow screenwriter, producer, and director Roy Huggins. His films such as Maverick, The Fugitive, and The Rockford Files won Emmy Awards in 1958. More importantly, in the 1930s, Huggins joined the Communist Party at a time where it was one of the few forces in American life that was against fascism. When Stalin signed his non-aggression pact with Hitler and the stance of the party was reversed, Huggins quit the party. In the following years, HUAC launched their investigation of communism in Hollywood. They no longer would employ Communist Party members or anyone who didn't cooperate with big producers, received jail sentences, and they were banned from Hollywood films. During this time, there was a great deal of fear in Hollywood that inspired a change in film. The results have come in. The winner is the Little Boxes commercial. I'm sorry, but there has been a mistake. The winner of the Oscar is King Kong. Congratulations. Sorry for pulling a Steve. Thank you all and good night.